Okay, hello friends. Welcome to the pharmacology classroom, and today we will be continuing the discussion on autonomic nervous system pharmacology. So, yesterday we talked about some beta 1 agonists. That is, for example, we have an experimental drug, isn't it? We had an experimental. What was the experimental drug? It was prenalterol. Prenalterol. It was a beta 1 agonist. It's used to reverse the beta blocker dosage. Okay, if you have a beta blocker overdose, to reverse that, we give prenalterol. Or we also read in the last discussion, we had beta 2 agonists, isn't it? So many: salbutamol, terbutaline, albuterol, salmeterol, formoterol. We give it for asthma, isn't it? We give it for asthma. This is for the reversal of beta blockade. This is for the reversal of beta blockade. Okay. And we also said, for example, if a patient is there and the patient is coming to me with preterm labor, the patient comes to me with preterm labor. What I do is preterm labor, that is, the labor is not happening at the appropriate time. So it is even before that 37 weeks. Okay. So what will happen is I will try to, because what is happening in the labor is the uterine contractions are happening, and these uterine contractions are coming preterm, isn't it? They are not coming on their ideal time. So what will happen is they will push the fetus, isn't it? They will push the fetus downwards and will lead to premature delivery. Premature delivery. So what we do is we give some drugs. For example, we can use some tocolytics so that they can relax this uterus. So they can relax this uterus. So this uterus will get relaxed. So these tocolytics, we have Rytodrine, we have Isospring. So these are the beta 2 agonists. Okay, these will be definitely selective ones. So we also said we had some beta 3 agonists. Beta 3 agonist, we have mirabegron. Mirabegron was used for overactive bladder. Overactive bladder. Is it clear? Okay. Now you have a patient. Okay. The patient came to you with acute asthma, acute asthmatic attack. So acute asthma he came. So for acute asthma, you will give which drugs? You can give albuterol, you can give terbutaline, you can give pirbuterol, you can give bitolterol, okay. But you can use it for acute asthma as well as COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. But if you have a patient who is with chronic asthma, he is coming to you with chronic asthma. In chronic asthma patient, what is the drugs you will be giving? You will be giving some long duration acting, isn't it? You will be giving some drugs which have long duration. I will be teaching you this again in detail in the respiratory system, okay, respiratory pharmacology. But here I am again telling you, here just giving a correlation that in chronic asthma, we give long acting. Like we have, what are the long acting ones? Salmeterol, formoterol, formoterol. And we don't give them alone. We give them definitely with steroids. So for chronic asthma, we give this combination with steroids. Either you take salmeterol plus steroids or formoterol plus steroids. Okay. Now what happened is, listen to me. I give you another example of these sympathomimetics. A patient comes to me in the emergency department, and what happens? He has an acute bronchospasm. he has an acute bronchospasm. He comes to me with, this is the bronchus and this goes into spasm. What will happen? He will have a ventilatory compromise. He will have a ventilatory compromise because this will cause what? It will cause symptoms of those breathlessness and hypoventilation, isn't it? So what will happen? You will be having an acute bronchospasm. Okay. Or patient is coming to you with angioedema. I hope you sent me a photo yesterday that allergy, hypersensitivity, that was angioedema. Okay. And I hope you know the anaphylactic shock, isn't it? So anaphylactic shock. You got an anaphylactic shock. So in anaphylactic shock, you have a peripheral vasodilatation. The faucets, the arterioles get leaked. They are not able to maintain the total peripheral resistance. Your arterioles are not able to maintain the total peripheral resistance like this. I will show you. See guys, this is your heart. The heart is connected to the systemic circulation. You have a CNS circulation. You have a, the renal circulation. You have mesenteric circulation. And you have so many circulations connected. These are all behaving as resistances. These are all behaving as resistances. These are all behaving as resistances. And we said the highest resistance, you may have read it in the physiology, the highest resistance we have is in the arterioles. The highest resistance you can get is the arterioles. So these arterioles have those faucets. It has those faucets, tap sort of a thing, those faucets. Once you have any sort of sepsis, what happens that these faucets will get, they will become incompetent. They will become incompetent and they won't be able to maintain that vascular resistance. So what happens, you have an intense shock. You have a shock scenario where we have a hypoperfusion state, because if you have adequate pressure, adequate volume, then only the blood can exchange the oxygen with the peripheral tissues. Okay. But if you don't have that adequate pressure, adequate, what will happen? You will be having shock. You will be leading ischemia across all those tissues. So what we do is we can administer, you have a patient with a collapse, with an anaphylactic collapse. He has a cardiovascular collapse. He has a cardiovascular collapse. What will happen? You will start epinephrine. Epinephrine is given IM. I have taught you this. Epinephrine IM. Is it clear? So this is the sympathomimetics what you can use. Okay. And I told you last time that phenylephrine, I can use it for the retinos fundoscopic examination. Fundoscopic examination. I want to examine the retina also. Okay. Because phenylephrine is a mydriartic, isn't it? I have taught that. Okay. And I told you if someone is having, this is the conjunctiva, white conjunctiva with, this is the white conjunctiva. Okay. So what will happen? This conjunctiva, if it is getting hyperemic, the layer above your sclera, this is the hyperemic redness is more, you will be giving some, can give the phenylephrine also. Okay, because it will decrease that congestion in the eye. Okay, is it clear? Now in CNS, where are we using them? In CNS we are using amphetamines. Do you know amphetamines? Okay, like modafinil. Okay, now I am telling you a condition that is called narcolepsy. In narcolepsy, you have a condition that a person is sleeping and sleepy condition. So what we have seen is amphetamines. Yeah, I hope you know some truck drivers take this amphetamine so that they can remain aroused, isn't it? Amphetamine has arousal effects. They have arousal effects and they also increase attention, but don't take it. Otherwise, you will listen to the sounds even which are present in your second district, isn't it? You will listen, you will become so much attentive that you will listen to the sounds from the second district also. Okay, so arousal effects and what? Attention, they increase the attention. And you will be having myalgias and all that if you take it. So never try to take these drugs. Study in a natural physiology mechanism. Sleep well, study well, sleep at least 6-7 hours, and study more. Take relax, take rests also, and do some exercise also. That's how you can be having a healthy life. Don't rely on the drugs. Okay, so don't rely on these pharmaceutical things. Okay, you know. We used we how we diagnose, we use a sympathomimetic, that is hydroxyamphetamine or phenylephrine. We also use it for, I want to tell you this. Okay, now please tell me first, if it increases the attention, can I use it for ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? Okay, so which drug we give for ADHD? Methylphenidate. Methylphenidate is given for ADHD. Okay, now if you want to diagnose Horner syndrome, Horner syndrome, remember, OSIS. What? OSIS. I remember Horner syndrome by OSIS. So Iqbal, I remember this by OSIS. Okay, I don't know how you remember. So ptosis, meiosis, and hydrosis. Ptosis, meiosis, and hydrosis. Okay, is the Horner syndrome. There are so many other things, but at least remember this: ptosis, meiosis, and hydrosis. So to treat this Horner syndrome, we give what? Not treat, sorry, diagnose. To diagnose this Horner syndrome, what we give? So diagnosis of Horner syndrome. So diagnosis of Horner syndrome, hydroxyamphetamine and phenylephrine. Okay, phenylephrine. Here, so diagnosis of Horner syndrome. Horner syndrome is ptosis, meiosis, and hydrosis, and diagnosis of Horner syndrome, that is hydroxyamphetamine and phenylephrine. Okay. We also have that dexmedetomidine, isn't it? That acts on the CNS. Sedation. For example, you are taking a patient to the intensive care unit. You are taking a person to the intensive care unit, and you want to intubate that patient, or you want to mechanically ventilate that patient. You have to give him mechanical ventilation, mechanically ventilate the patient. What we do? We give this for sedating the patient. So sedate the patient. Sedate the patient with what? Dexmedetomidine. We use it as a pre-anesthetic. Dexmedetomidine. Dexmedetomidine. Okay, fine. What is the name of this? Presidex, isn't it? Presidex. Presidex. Fine. So it is basically a alpha 2 selective, isn't it? Alpha 2 selective adrenergic. Okay. So I told you that tizanidine, Senaflex, we use it for muscle relaxation. Okay. What are the basically the adverse effects of sympathomimetics? What they can do is, what they can do? They can, if you overdose a person with epinephrine, if someone had an overdose of epinephrine, if someone got an overdose of epinephrine, what will happen? Number one, severe hypertension. Number two, pulmonary edema. Number three, cerebral hemorrhage. Number four, cardiac arrhythmias. Cardiac arrhythmias. Okay. And if you are giving epinephrine, that means you are actually increasing the workload on the heart. You are increasing the workload. That means your myocardial oxygen demand will increase. Myocardial oxygen demand will increase, leading to myocardial infarction and angina. In which patients? If the patient already has coronary insufficiency. So in patients of coronary insufficiency, you will be giving, if they have that overdose of epinephrine, what will happen? They will have angina or MI. Okay. So we have a procedure. I'm telling you that effects of these adverse effects. Okay, adverse effects of all this mathematics. Before we take a patient in the ophthalmology unit, we do, for example, we have to do the iridectomy. I'll be teaching in glaucoma or eye drugs. Okay, so iridectomy, we do it for, we are using it for the close angle glaucoma, isn't it? We're using to treat. Okay, so what we do is for the close angle glaucoma in the iridectomy, never give phenylephrine. Never give phenylephrine before this procedure. Before iridectomy, we should not give phenylephrine. Phenyl. Why? Because it can cause increased intraocular pressure. It can cause increased intraocular pressure. So we don't give phenylephrine before iridectomy. Okay. Now, last time we saw TCA. Do we know? Tricyclic antidepressants, tricyclic antidepressants. We said they inhibit that reuptake. Do we remember that diagram? Do we remember that diagram, the reuptake? It inhibits that reuptake. Do we know that reuptake? It does not let the reuptake of the catecholamines. Now you tell me, if you are giving someone a tricyclic antidepressant together with what? Epinephrine or epinephrine, will it cause the potentiation effect? Do you know that potentiation? It will remain there. So you will have what effect? Potentiation. So drug interactions are TCA plus epinephrine. What will cause? What will happen? This epinephrine won't be reuptaken. That means it will remain on more time. At much more time, it will remain at the junction. So that's why we say this will cause potentiation of epinephrine or epinephrine. It causes potentiation of epinephrine or epinephrine. Clear, friends? Okay. Now, if you give it with some halogenated, I'm connecting this to anesthesia. Okay, so if you give this with halogenated anesthetic agents, or you give it with digitalis, what will happen? This will cause beta receptor sensitization. Beta receptor sensitization. Beta receptor sensitization of heart. So your heart will get more sensitive to this beta activity. And what will happen? This will cause ventricular arrhythmias. Ventricular arrhythmias. Are we clear? So we have more amount of beta 1 now and they are now sensitive. Is it clear, friends? Do we have any doubt in it? Okay. 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 So now we go towards what? We go towards the indirectly acting sympathomimetics. Okay. Indirectly acting. That means they will be actually causing a sympathomimetic action, but not directly. They will be doing something such that the sympathomimetic action happens. Okay, or either they will be doing what? They will be increasing the release of what? Norepinephrine. Okay, or they will be inhibiting their uptake, inhibiting their reuptake. I should not say uptake, reuptake. Inhibiting their reuptake, noradrenaline. So they will be increasing this. This will be, isn't it? Scroll up where this, where to scroll? Where to scroll, guys? Where? Okay. Fine. Okay. So now, see, now you are increasing the release. You are actually increasing the release of any, or okay. So what they do is the agents which I will be giving in this to have an indirectly acting sympathomimetic action is that thing will go inside the cytoplasm of this neuron, this adrenergic neuron, by that same receptor, by that same transporter. So we should have a clever drug. We should make the drug in such a way so that the things can, my drug can go through the same transporter inside. Are we clear? The transporter which is causing the reuptake of noradrenaline, norepinephrine or noradrenaline, the drug should be such that it should be using the same transporter so that it can go inside and do the, so I have those things. Then these drugs, what will they do? They are so clever that once this drug utilizes this transporter, it goes into the same vesicle. You know, we have that secret agent going in the uniform of the same thing, isn't it? So we have the uniform of the same cadet in that place, going into that, I hope you understand. Okay. So what do they do there? They go inside the vesicle and there they displace its own noradrenaline. So what will happen once it displaces more noradrenaline will come out, more noradrenaline will come out, isn't it? You have went inside, you displaced the noradrenaline, which is normally stored in the vesicles. I hope you remember the previous lectures of ENS. And then it increases the release of these, noradrenaline at the junction. Okay. Okay. Now you will be telling me, sir, why it's not making more, and because your vesicle will be having a fixed capacity. It's not that it will make, it has a fixed capacity to make something. Okay, it has a fixed capacity to store. Each vesicle will be having its own capability, isn't it? Okay. So what happens now is that this noradrenaline, once it is coming out on the receptors, we will be having some alpha receptors, we'll be having some beta receptors. So it will come on these receptors and activates them and activates these receptors. They will activate these receptors. Now you will tell me, if you keep on stimulating, what will happen? If you keep on stimulating, what will happen? If you keep on stimulating, what will happen? These receptors, they will start becoming what? They will start becoming, fatigued. They will go into fatigue. They will become what? Tolerant. Okay. So once you keep on giving them in short intervals, repeated dosages, what will happen? You will develop tolerance. That is called what? That is called tachyphylaxis. So you will be having a rapid development of tolerance. This is called Tachyphylaxis. Are we clear with this term? So what is the definition of tachyphylaxis? On repeated dosage of at short intervals, on repeated dosage at shorter intervals, what will happen that there will be development of tolerance with these drugs, with these indirectly acting sympathomimetics, which are increasing the release of NA. So guys, this is the tachyphylaxis. Now, you may have come across a chemical called tyramine. This tyramine is present in cheese. Okay, this is present in cheese and other foods also, red wine. Okay, what happens? This tyramine, what it does is this causes a reaction that is called cheese reaction. In whom will it cause cheese reaction? This is a separate topic of hypertension and cardiovascular. I will be teaching in that, but here I'm telling you, cheese reaction we are giving in patient, in patients. We have some patients in which we are giving some MAO inhibitors. We are giving MAO inhibitors, that is monoamine oxidase. So we are giving monoamine oxidase so that our amine can remain, it can remain in that same place and does not get destroyed. Okay, this enzyme, we are inhibiting this enzyme monoamine oxidase. Okay, remember here, just remember, I don't want to go into some other topic because it's a separate discussion. So remember, if you give monoamine oxidase, what will happen? If these patients take cheese, they will develop a reaction that is called cheese reaction. They will cause a cheese reaction in patients who are taking MAO inhibitors. Okay, so remember, there is a cheese reaction in patients with MAO inhibitors. So in MAO inhibitors, you should suggest the patient not to remain away from the things that has tyramine. Okay, okay guys. So in patients who are taking MAO inhibitors, tyramine will cause what? Cheese reaction. Tyramine will cause cheese reaction. Okay. And the thing when I told you attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Okay, what were the drugs we were using? We were using what? Methylphenidate was the preferred drug. You could also use amphetamines. Amphetamines. You could also use atomoxetine. Atomoxetine. You can use what else? These two you have to remember because other drug that is having hepatotoxicity. So we are not using that drug, pimoline. Okay. Now you know what happens? What happens? Did you learn in the basics? Basics I remember. Do you remember there was a acidic drug poisoning, basic drug poisoning, and I told you if you want to remove an acidic drug, we give a basic reagent. We alkalinize the urine. And if you are having acidic drug poisoning, you will alkalize the urine. If you are having basic drug poisoning, you will be acidifying the urine. Okay. Since amphetamines are basic drugs, since these drugs are basic drugs, so these basic drugs, if we have a toxicity of these drugs, what will happen? You have to remove them from the body. So what you will do, you will acidify the urine. So you tell me how to acidify urine? Which agent? Ammonium chloride. NH4Cl, ammonium chloride. So I taught you, if you have a basic drug poisoning, you will give an acidic, you will acidify the urine. You will make the urine acidic so that it comes out. And if you want to, treat the acidic drug poisoning, you will be giving an alkalinize the urine. You will alkalinize the urine with sodium bicarbonate. Sodium, isn't it? Do we remember basic pharmacology, guys, or we are sleeping? Yeah, okay, okay. Thanks to God, you remember. Okay, okay. But I want to tell you, the people who are addicted to amphetamines don't remember any other song on addiction. Okay, so addicted, the people who are the people who are addicted to amphetamines, what they do before taking amphetamines, what they do is, they call it a kick. What they call it kick. They take sodium bicarbonate. So they say it gives them something, I don't know, a kick something. So they use sodium bicarbonate as a kick. Okay. So these were all your whatever we read about the indirectly acting sympathomimetics. Indirectly acting sympathomimetics. Now I want to tell you, do we remember from the last discussion we had those mixed sympathomimetics? When I classified, can you check your pages? Do we know that pages? This is all what we are discussing. Okay, so mixed sympathomimetics. Sir, mixed. So easy. That means what they will do? They will increase the release of NA and they will also activate direct receptors. So they are mixed. That means they are behaving like what? Indirectly acting as well as activating the alpha and beta directly. Okay. So you have what? Ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. What else? Okay, remember these two. Okay. So ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, and this. So what is mifentermine? Okay. This also. Okay. So see, there was also methoxamine then, isn't it? So remember these three first. Okay, these two: ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, and you can remember mifentermine. Okay, so ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. What is the uses? What we do is we use it for again for nasal decongestant action as well as bronchodilator action. They are mixed, so they have mixed action. That is, they will be used as nasal decongestants and bronchodilator. Bronchodilator action. Okay. Now, what is special about ephedrine? Ephedrine can be used for bronchial asthma. You can use it for bronchial asthma. Okay. Now, if you want to use it, ephedrine as a vasopressor. Okay. Now tell me one thing. You have this maternal circulation. This is the uterus, and this uterus is having the baby. This uterus is having the baby. Baby is having blood vessels. Baby is supplied with blood vessels. Now I want to give vasopressor. I want to give a vasopressor in pregnancy. If I give vasopressor, what will happen? I am treating the mother. But what will happen? It will also, this vasopressor will also compress what? This will also cause vasoconstriction of placental vessels. And that will lead to blood circulation compromise. A fetal circulation will be compromised. Fetal circulation will be compromised, isn't it? So would you like to give anything which will compromise the fetal circulation also? If you want to treat a mother, you want to give a vasopressor in a mother, or do you want the same vasopressor? Baby did not do anything, baby is normal. So if you give which agents, if you give any selective alpha 1, or if you give any like mifentermine. Okay, let me take your drug, mifentermine or methoxamine. These two will cause what? Fetal circulation compromise. They will vasoconstrict the fetal circulation also. So, sir, what to do? Pregnancy. We have to give a vasopressor to the pregnancy. I know pregnant mother. But the baby should be saved. Baby, you should not give something which is also inhibiting the blood supply to the baby. So you will give ephedrine. It is the vasopressor of choice in pregnancy. What? Ephedrine. This mixed. Why mixed? Because it has beta 2 action also. So beta 2 causes vasodilation. So beta 2 causes vasodilation. That's why I'm using this. Okay, it has a beta 2 mediated vasodilatory action. Is it clear? So at one point I'm using the vasopressin and baby will be saved. Baby will not be having any fetal compromise. There will be no fetal compromise. Okay, MAO inhibitors. I hope you remember MAO inhibitors. Yeah, phenelzine, tranylcypromine, isn't it? Sledgeline. Do we know? Okay, let me write some MAO inhibitors for you. MAO inhibitors. Where is the MAO inhibitors? Where did I write the MAO? Here. So what MAO inhibitors if a patient is taking? Let me write some MAO inhibitors. We have phenelzine, phenelzine, tranylcypromine, tranylcypromine. Phenelzine is what inhibitor? MAO-AB, MAO-AB. Tranylcypromine is same MAO-A, MAO-B inhibitor. I will be teaching you these, just giving a correlation here. And sledgeline. Sledgeline is MAO-B inhibitor. Okay, MAO-B. Okay, where are we using them? Depression, Parkinsonism, isn't it? I'll be teaching you that in detail. Where are we using the MAO inhibitors? Parkinsonism. So, I want to tell you in the end something special. This pseudoephedrine in many countries, what happened? Pseudoephedrine was banned. Pseudoephedrine was banned. It was banned because, it was an over-the-counter drug. I hope you remember OTC. It was an OTC, and what happened is, if you take this pseudoephedrine in the laboratory at home, you are able to make this methamphetamine. Methamphetamine. You are able to make methamphetamine. That's why it was banned. Okay. In some countries, I don't know which country, but yeah, I read some time back that it is basically an initiating substance. It is the starting material. Pseudoephedrine is used as a starting material. Starting material. Okay. So this is, I think we have finished the sympathomimetics in this video. In the next lecture, we'll be continuing the discussion. Maybe we will take some 1 or 2 videos to finish the autonomic. And we will be making a separate video for you for the glaucoma. Okay, raised intraocular pressure greater than 21 mmHg. That I will be making different video. And bladder pharmacology, I want to make a different video for you because there is so many people asking for bladder pharmacology because they get stuck in urology also. So I want to help them. I want to make a nice connecting video with bladder pharmacology also. Okay, and I want to teach you some experiments. Okay, so that you can understand the full, understand it very nicely. This, okay. Even if you tell me, I can teach you glaucoma a little bit with that. Okay, from ophthalmology. Okay, pathology, I will teach you something. Okay, so that you can understand it very well. Okay, is it clear? Can we do that? Yeah, because when we understand the disease, then the treatment becomes very much easy, isn't it? When we learn a disease, then treatment becomes very much easy. Okay, so I think it's the best way. What I do in my lectures also is I teach you the disease and then give you the treatment. That's the best thing that you can. And even my pharmacology lectures, it's all you can get the knowledge of physiology also, pharmacology, microbiology. So I try to bring everything whatever I remember, whatever I know, I will let you know, understand. Okay, so I connected here only. So I hope you have enjoyed the today's session. We have learned this much. So we will see you tomorrow in the next lecture. So take care. Bye bye. Have a nice day.